we'll just do the community report. I'll cut it off, and then I'll think about it. It'll be a little bit. I'll take my time.
You're just giving one breath. Right?
Is there a superintendent in the house?
One.
That was a you can't do that.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Snoblin?
Here.
Mr. Edson?
Here.
Mr. Block?
Here.
Mr. Scribner? Mr. Bergner?
Here.
Mr. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Golan?
Here. Thank you. We'll begin the evening with the President's report. And to start things off, I'd like to turn it over to our principal, Mr. Jay Hoffman.
And I'd like to introduce someone who I count on very much, our Director of Bands at the high school, Janine Kessler.
You're in for a treat this evening. We have 6 of our very top musicians.
Can you use the microphone, please?
Janine, you have to use the microphone, okay?
As I was saying, you're in for quite a treat this evening. We have 6 of our top music students here to perform for you tonight. Of these 6, 5 of them were selected for All-State, the IMEA All-State. 5 of them are seniors, not the same 5, incidentally. All 6 of them did IMEA districts. 2 of them are going on to major in music. Most of them are going to be minoring in music or doing something of that, being very involved with music in their futures. But what they've prepared for you tonight is a set of 2 Mozart nocturnes. And this is the original instrumentation written by Mozart. And so there will be 2 pieces with a slight pause between the 2 of them. And they've been working on this with me and with their voice teacher, Kathy Farron, who's sitting right back here. So please enjoy. Oh, I should tell you their names. This is Kelsey Kalasa, Lily Ahn, James Schmidt, Alex Kroger, Ethan Borey, and Will Gregg.
Sole
Thank you very much. I think I saw a few tears in the audience. That presentation wasn't just haphazardous. That actually was a tribute to Marilyn Harlow. Marilyn, one of my favorite memories, earliest memories of you, is passing you on South Green Bay Road as you were dashing off to take one of your 3 sons to yet another music lesson, clarinet lesson. Marilyn's boys are all very talented, and I thought you might like that tonight, as did Jay and Harry. So not to make this any harder on any of us, if you don't mind, would you like to go up to the podium, perhaps? Marilyn Harlow is retiring from the board. Tonight I do want to welcome our new member, Monty Edson. Monty, welcome. Cake and music is just an enticement. We may not have that every month, but we would if we could. At this time, I would like to present a resolution to Marilyn, about Marilyn. Resolution. Whereas Marilyn Harlow has faithfully served Lake Forest High School and its children with dedication as a member of the Board of Education of School District 115 since 2003, and whereas she represented the board on the Operations Committee from 2003 to 2007 and served as chairman, Marilyn provided oversight to all district operations and a community perspective on the relationship between department, school, district goals, and budgets. During this important time in Lake Forest High School's history, Marilyn was instrumental in assisting with the design of the new school facility to address a 60% increase in student enrollment, enhance academic offerings and security, and provide leadership in the $54 million referendum that won by an overwhelming 65% of the vote, a community record. Whereas she was a founding member of the Shared Services Initiative to negotiate an innovative agreement to share a single superintendent, combine administrative functions, and coordinate academic programs, thus reducing overall expenses by $1.2 million a year. And Marilyn served on the Joint Shared Services Committee from 2006 to 2009 to oversee this new governance model for top quality education administered in a financially responsible manner to the children of both Lake Forest School District 67 and Lake Forest High School District 115. And whereas Marilyn, during her tenure, she served as the chairman of the Education Committee since 2007 and provided oversight to major district educational initiatives, new programs, and brought forth recommendations to the Board of Education on major topics or matters related to curriculum and instruction and improvement of student outcomes to ensure the implementation and metrics to guide the realization of educational goals. And whereas she served as a member of a team that greatly facilitated the negotiating process, which resulted in fair and equitable contracts between the Board of Education and the LFEA in the years 2003 and 2006. And whereas she served on the Policy Committee from 2009 to 2011 and spent countless hours to ensure the district was up to date and comprehensive in scope in all of its school policies. And whereas she served as an executive board member of the North Suburban Special Education District, NSSED, and through her work showed a commitment to the possibilities in every student. And whereas her fellow board members, administrators, and staff will miss her commitment, ability to listen respectfully to others' opinions, and that she could always be counted on to speak up for what she felt was right, and be detailed in the wording of statements, both spoken and written. Marilyn's presence and words of wisdom will be thought of often in the years to come. And therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Lake Forest High School, District 115, does express for itself, as well as the parents, the students, the staff, and citizens of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, and Knollwood, its sincere appreciation and gratitude to Marilyn Harlow for all she has done to advance the quality education in our communities.
Do I need? No, I don't. Okay. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to serve Lake Forest High School over these past 8 years and to work with all of you on the board and with the administration and the staff and the wonderful teachers and support staff that we have. I'm very proud of what we've accomplished over these years. I think that compared to where we were when we started, we've made tremendous progress and we've become a very positive organization. If you recall back in the early 2000s, there was a strategic planning effort that involved the entire community and had many committees. And at that point, I think there was a general consensus that there was a lot that needed to be fixed at our high school. And there were committees that recommended referendums both for facilities and for operations. There have been great cutbacks in the service we provided, and things such as staff development were really in abeyance. And I think everyone was looking at what to cut next and what programs to remove. And we were vastly overpopulated at the high school, and when kids weren't actually in class, they really had no place to go, and they were locked down and restricted. And I think now that things are so much better, people forget that. But the point of all that is I'd really like to thank the community for having supported the referendum, because it opened up the school and made it possible for us to improve the programs that we were providing and to help the staff do a better job. Even something as simple as the physical location of putting teachers together in a room with staff from contiguous subject areas and having them be able to work together and build programs, that was all new. That was all different. And we all got, I think, on the same page. We all started collaborating on our objectives, and there was tremendous staff support for them. There was tremendous board support for them. As it turned out, we were able to do shared services, and our superintendent was very instrumental in making this campus a profit center. We're now renting it out, and that made it possible for us not to do the operating referendum. We were able to make all these improvements without going back to the voters for more operating money, and I think that when we look at everything that's going on in the schools, if we go back 10 years and look at where we are now, it's tremendous. It's so positive. So thank you all for working so hard all together to make this happen. It's been a great time for me. It's been a great time to be here, and I'm so proud. And I had a wonderful time listening to the music. And thank you guys for the reception, for the lovely painting, and really it's amazing how good you make me sound in your proclamation. But I will miss being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. We will miss you greatly.
Of course, Marilyn, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Come back anytime. And that concludes the President's report. Next, we have Dr. Griffith's Superintendent report.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and members of the audience. Thank you for being here tonight. Normally, we start off with a report from Lake Forest High School, but instead, tonight we're going to start off with a presentation from our communications department. And Ann Whipple is going to give us a little tour of Lake Forest High School website. And I'd like to encourage all of our community out there to consider going to the website as often as possible, because we continue to grow the website as significantly as we can, and are mounting a lot more information into the entire website than we ever had before. So, Ann, please, let's go on a tour.
Okay, certainly this is just a mini tour. I know that we've had you sit through pages and pages of this in the past, but there are a couple changes that I wanted to highlight tonight and just bring to your attention so you can see some of the things that are happening. As we've shown you before, this is the homepage that pops up when you go to lfhs.org. On the left-hand side, we really try to have things that are ready for parents this week, things they might be checking, just times and locations, things that are coming up. We have videos, as you can see down below, that we try to have the most recent video if there's been any type of performance available. But one of the things to the far right that I'd like to just have you take a look at is that we have made the far right column all about the Board of Education. And this has happened over the last 2 months. I will walk you through. If you look on the far left bar over here, you can see that Board of Education was always a tab on the home page. And I'll take you to that tab too. But we thought for ease of navigation, we'd actually put much of the information on the home page as well. So that is a new feature. Get us over here. I apologize, this is not my normal computer.
I'll drive.
We'll go down, there we go. As you can see, on this site here, we announced Marilyn's reception to begin with, but then we do have the agendas for the evening. Underneath that, we have all the information from the past board meeting, and that's stay up for 1 month, and then it goes archived to the board page. So it will continue to be on the site, just not in such a prominent location. For instance, last month's board meeting, we actually put up the president's report with public participation and comments grouped in one video. What I've been asking Lake Forest TV to do is to break it into snippets. You can certainly watch the entire board meeting on cable TV, but sometimes to sit through a 3-hour meeting, as riveting as they are, people would rather just see certain portions of it. So what we try to do is highlight the most important portions of the meeting. Then also last month there was asked for a response to the comments that were brought forth in the body of the meeting. We did receive one filled out card at the end of the meeting, and that person was called, and then there was another individual comment that person was called. But the comments to the board were posted, I want to say 3 days after the board meeting, maybe 4. So they were up there at that point in time. The superintendent's report we pulled out separately, the committee reports. The District 115 financial update is a bit of an older video. It's what Mr. Carey and Mr. Scribner did 2 months ago, would you say, Mr. Carey? The royalties are piling in on this one, but we kept that one up there because we felt like that was part of the response to some of the financial questions, and it might be helpful for viewers to see that. And then we always have the reports that are presented on that evening. If you go down to this section that talks about video reports down at the bottom right here, this shows us all the videos from April, and then it's on a page that shows videos throughout the course of the past year. And then we also talk about the upcoming meetings. Then as you scroll down, you'll see our dashboards are there, our profile, which is one of the documents that our real estate community really does use, and we wanted to make sure that that was user-friendly, or any visiting families or people just wanting to know more about the district. The snow plans were a change, and then superintendent search information has been on the homepage since the search began. So we thought if we grouped them all in one area, it would make it a bit easier. Are there any questions on that section or areas that you see we could amend?
Ann, why don't you click on the dashboard for a second?
Okay.
You can go back to the home page.
The dashboards, which we did showcase when we first brought them up, but you can see that they have a variety of sections. If you click on any of the circles, you're able to go to those sections, either frequently asked questions, curriculum, human resources, and finance and operations, and our goals and vision are on this as well. And then each of these sections, as we dive a little deeper, have a whole variety of charts and graphs and comparatives, and this is true for every section. There's a video about emotional wellness, curriculum. Last meeting, for instance, there was a question about our college acceptance rates, and so we did add that table after the day after the meeting. We contacted guidance and actually put up the college acceptance rates. One of the things I'd like to say is that we do put it here, but often we cross-reference documents in multiple places. So for instance, the 5-year college acceptance rates are also on the counseling page, because sometimes what's intuitive to me as a navigator would not be intuitive to another user. So we try to think, where would someone look for this document? So it may be 2, sometimes 3 places on the page, just so it's for ease of reference. Any questions on that portion of it? I'd like to draw your attention to the yellow box right in the middle. This time of year, we did have a nicely successful 75th anniversary, and thanks to all who did come on that Sunday. But in the past, we've had a sort of a snail mail alumni group, and no one's really taken it by the helm. Marge Sorensen has done a beautiful job as a volunteer pulling it together, but we're going to try to have an attempt to have an alumni newsletter electronically. So we announced that at the 75th anniversary. You can see we're encouraging alumni to sign up for the e-newsletter. We will not inundate people with e-newsletters on this. We'll do things quarterly or at the summertime when there are reunions or for special events, send information out. We've also launched a community e-newsletter, and that will be the same way. With budget cuts, we did drop one of our mailings over the past couple of years, and at some point we'd like to reinstate that. We're hoping next year to add at least 2 issues of that back in, but in the interim, this is obviously a very cost-effective way. So we're asking all interested residents to click through. Once you put your email in, it prompts you, and you can sign up for whatever portions of the emails that or e-newsletters that you'd like. So you could sign up theoretically for an alumni e-newsletter as well as a community one, or for your senior in high school as well as an alumni one, and they will be sent out accordingly to the users. As mentioned in the past, Board of Education is over here on the left navigation bar. That's always been there since the creation of the creation of the website. So you can see the board page is very rich with information, and I won't click you through all these, but we do have the agendas, special meeting agendas, public hearings. All the meetings and videos are over here. Board minutes going back, I think, to 2005 or 6 maybe. So if you're interested in reviewing old minutes, seeing what's happening, we go back to 2006 on those. Up at the top, we keep the navigation bars on all these pages, so if you want to click back and either go back to the board materials, shared services information, members, meeting dates, goals, we have both the current ones and the ones projected for next year. So really there's quite a bit of information from a board perspective up here. The members page, there you all are in living color with all your contact information. And we were able to get Monty's things up today. We sort of went to the caucus page and found some good things there. So there's quite a bit of information on the Board of Education page. And as we say, it's 2 ways to navigate it, once again from the home page, or you can go here as well. Up in the far right-hand corner are 2 little icons, a video as well as a camera. All the videos from the entire school or warehouse there, and any of the photo galleries are there. And some of them are boards, some are just for things that have been happening. Down below on the side is meeting videos and reports. Those are strictly for the school, for the Board of Education at this point in time. And then the last part that I'll show you today, just this yellow bar as I'm scrolling up and down is the same on every single page, but financial reports are here too. So as you approve your monthly financial and budget information, they are posted within a few days of the time. All that is there as well. The financial dashboards, the dashboards that are linked to any of these sections, that section is also navigatable from this point of view. Shared services information, we've got some videos on that. So today I really just wanted to show you the board as well as some of the information that's available from a financial standpoint. And if you do have suggestions or way for us to make them more easy to find or more navigatable, if anyone's ever been at a parent meeting or a community meeting, I always solicit responses and ask that, you know, if there's something you have trouble finding, let us know. We'll try to make it more visible for you.
Thank you, Ann.
Yep.
Board members, do you have any questions? Well, I think you enjoy doing an outstanding job, and I want to thank you. I find myself going through this and reading it, and some of the fun things that the students are doing and some of the drier things like finances.
Right.
So Thank you.
Just a quick metrics that I will, some metrics that I will share with you. We're up to 7,000 hits a day on the website. Last year we hovered around 5,000, so we're growing that. Monday through Friday, we are right at close to 7,000 or a little more. On Saturdays and Sundays, that drops to about 3,000 hits. And so it's really interesting to see the analytics on this, because they peak on Monday, and as they go down to Friday, and the weekends are slow, and then it's very consistent throughout the month. So we really have some good data on that.
And are those unique visitors, or are those paid?
Those are unique visitors. Those are unique visitors, which is amazing.
Several
Absolutely.
times the population of the school.
It absolutely is, which is always just surprising to us, because, yeah, the page visits obviously are much higher from them. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to remind our audience that you are welcome to come to our board meetings. This is our way to communicate to the community, but to have a two-way dialogue, it's nice if you do call in and with your questions or comments, as Ann said. And also tonight, if anyone is a guest here, make sure that you do sign in to our book so that we know who you are, and we can contact you if you do come up with questions or comments, and keep the conversation going back and forth the best we can. So thank you, Ann, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Griffith.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ann. Okay, now let's go to Lake Forest High School from the principal's office, Jay Hoffman.
And I'll turn it over to Caroline, and let's all say goodbye to Caroline, because this is her last meeting, and the next time that we'll hear her speak after this is at the graduation on June 4th, under great, beautiful skies.
There's half a cake in the front hall in your honor.
From April 18th to April 22nd, Student Council worked with the Environmental Club as well as the Emotional Wellness Initiative to plan our 1 week. The focus of the week was One World, One Community, One Self. On Monday of that week, Bill Curtis came and spoke during lunch periods. Tuesday was our Earth Day, where we had an eco market, organic food court, as well as Ride Your Bike to School Day. Wednesday, Lfhs Salam and Duke grad Caitlin Rogers came and spoke during lunch periods and talked about the importance of being a global citizen with her work in Tanzania through the project Literacy Through Photography. On Thursday, we held our health fair. There was yoga during the lunch periods, which originally was scheduled for the dance studio, but due to large participation, we had to move it to the competition gym. In addition to this, we had booths in the Commons about various topics relating to health issues affecting teens. And Friday, we had scheduled our volunteer service day, but unfortunately, we had to cancel it due to bad weather. However, the plan was for a bike path cleanup, and we had 150 students signed up to help. On April 26th, Student Council held elections for next year's student body president and vice president. 4 candidates ran for president, and Abby Cyrus won, and 3 candidates for vice president, with the winner as Jilly Richmond. On May 3rd, junior class president elections were held for next year, and the president is Isabel Montaigne, and Hannah Foucher will be vice president. And then this Thursday, we have our last set of president elections for rising sophomores and seniors, and the following Thursday will be elections for the exec board for student council. And then this past Sunday, May 7th, or Saturday, sorry, seniors held their annual bike and bake sale. And then this Saturday, May 14th, is prom, which is hosted by the junior class, which will be at the Marriott Hotel in Chicago.
It's been extremely busy, as you could probably tell from that, and it's unbelievable the amount of kids that we get to buy into all these things. The Earth Week that was put on by the APT and the Student Council was just amazing, and a lot were packed into those 4 days, I'll tell you. And it's really great to see these student-led initiatives that come from the students with their ideas and their hard work kind of come to fruition with a little bit of help from the adults. And if we stay out of the way, that's probably the best help that we can give them. So it's really proud of them and all the work that Student Council has done this year, and hopefully let's give Caroline a big send-off right now.
Well, Caroline, I also want to say thank you. Great job. You've represented the student body really well here. I know you'll do a wonderful job on June 4th. We will be there with you. It's the last couple of weeks of your high school career. Hang in there. All of us here were at one time as seniors too. We remember that time period. So again, thank you, and also to your peers, your other students who have been behind all the reports that you've been talking about. Really, really wonderful activity and leadership by so many of our students, and thank you especially for that. All right, board members, I'm going to just a couple of announcements. First of all, I would like to do a little shout out to Roxanne. Is it Mazur, J, or Mazer? Mazur, M-A-S-S-E-R. Mazur. Roxanne is to be congratulated for placing second in the high school short story category in a large competition at the Warren Newport Public Library for in creative writing. So second in class. That's really wonderful. And now what I'd like to show you, board members on your left, if we could get the camera to show this particular piece of artwork, because Haley Betts, this year's senior class of 2011, just won the 30th annual Congressional Art Competition for the 10th Congressional District. This is the second year in a row that Lake Forest High School has won this prestigious award. Elias Jaga, the class of 2010, won last year, and this particular presentation is Haley's graphic design self-portrait, and it will hang in the Cannon Tunnel in the Capitol Complex in Washington, D.C. for 1 year. In addition, she and one family member will be flown by Southwest Airlines to Washington, D.C. for the presentation ceremony. So congratulations to Haley. This is pretty wonderful event. And then, board members, I would like to also shout out to the community about stopping by at Lake Forest Public Library, because we have hundreds of students displaying their top art piece of the year that's sprinkled throughout the public library here in the city of Lake Forest. And many congratulations for the students for their presentation of art. Please stop by the library. You just really have to see that, just strolling around. It's almost hard to find the books as you go through the entire library, because we have hundreds of pieces on display there. Many congratulations to our students. And then finally, I'd like to I'd like Jay to help me for a second. Throughout the halls of Lake Forest High School, we've begun part of our initiative to doing a better job of recognizing both faculty and staff and students. We've begun an academic wall of fame, and we're doing a much better job, and we're just still in the early stages of recognizing student academic achievement throughout Lake Forest High School. I'd like to come back and do a more thorough report for the board, perhaps in the June or July board meeting, to do like a tour of Lake Forest High School with all the academic recognition that's going on. Tonight, we're going to be talking about some athletic activity a little bit later. But of course, our main mission is preparing our students for a successful college experience and the world of work beyond. So Jay, just say a few words about that, because we'll go on a tour later on too.
Yeah, I really thank the support that our budget has given the ability to display a lot of this, these students and their accomplishments. We got a big boost of things when we were compiling things for the 75th anniversary. A lot of the archives were uncovered, and we have been able to reframe the very first graduating picture from 1936 and put that into our trophy room. We also have the valedictorian and the salutatorian from the past several years displayed, and all the students who have won National Merit Scholarships. So we have those for the last 3 years, and we'll continue that as we move forward. It's really going to take an effort to keep going with this, and we're up for it. And we want to celebrate our kids' successes as many times as we can. And if you look at what's happened on our first floor in our commons and our lower commons, you'll see the display that is just pride in our students, and more to come. We also have commissioned a couple of pieces from graduates who are now in the world of art and want to come back and give back to our school. So we will have a couple of murals from them, along with the murals that our students themselves produce. So the walls will be full of students and their accomplishments, the least of which is the academic accomplishments, which we are so ready to move forward with. So.
All right, thank you, Jay. That concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Griffith. And on behalf of the board, Carolyn, I would like to congratulate you in advance and thank you for this year of service. You keep board members grounded by reminding us that it is about the kids and just what the kids are doing. So thank you and good luck to your future. Oh, yes, I forgot. Where are you going?
Boston College.
Yes, very nice.
And you're welcome to stay for the meeting, Caroline, but if you choose to leave, we totally understand that.
Next on the agenda, we have public participation. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the board on a topic that is not on the agenda, they can do that now. If you do, just remember to give us your name and your address, and please come to the podium. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Guya Tretter. I live at 550 Oak Knoll, Lake Forest. The board may recall that last month I asked some questions about how our kids stack up versus other high schools in the matter of standardized tests, and more generally, how we do in the area of getting our kids into the best possible colleges. At the board's suggestion, I looked at the website, and then because I tend to be a fairly analytical, numbers-oriented, and inquisitive person, I did a little comparative analysis of my own. I took a look at the class of 2010 from Lake Forest High School, their average test scores, and eventually the colleges that they enrolled in, and compared them with a very comparable, non-selective public high school out east. What the results show is that whereas the kids from both high schools look to me like they're almost equally competent as measured by the standardized test, there are some very big differences in the rate of acceptance to the nation's most selective colleges. While this is probably neither the time nor the venue for me to show you all the data that I compiled, I think that if the board has any interest, I'd be more than happy to sit down and go through all the slides and all the data that I compiled. More importantly, it would seem to me that one school, 1 year does not a trend make, but that I think that a multi-year study using more than one school and more than one comparable school and more than one graduating class would be very informative for the board, especially in light of the board's search for a new superintendent. I can imagine that conclusions drawn from the data compiled would certainly make the board think about new directions, new goals, and maybe new priorities. More importantly, though, I'm going to leave the board with one message tonight, is I think I can add some value in this area of analysis. I'm ready, willing, and able to help, and my question to the board is, how can I help you come up with this information to help you? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And somebody will be getting back to you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the board at this time? All right, seeing no one, I will move on to our board committee reports, beginning with Education Committee. Nikki Snoblin.
The Education Committee has not met since our last board meeting. We are trying to schedule a final Education Committee meeting before or around the end of the school year, just so that we can do some planning for the coming year.
Thank you, Nikki. Next, we have the Board Operations Committee. Dick Block.
Thank you, Sharon. The Operations Committee did meet on May the 3rd, and I think we made up for the Education Committee's not meeting. I think it was a record in terms of time, but we had plenty to discuss and plenty exciting things to discuss. As I think everyone's aware, one of the key objectives of the Operations Committee is to find ways to save money, to avoid costs, and come up with alternative funding streams, non-taxpayer-based funding streams. And to that end, we discussed a number of initiatives, and I'll start on the cost-saving side. We'll hear later tonight much greater detail about some changes in our custodial services contract. We outsourced custodial services some time ago in order to save money, and we continue to try to improve that, particularly in this overall economic environment. And much to the credit of our staff, we have worked with that service provider and come up with a way, hopefully, to get the same quality of service and yet save about 15% or just over $100,000 a year in our custodial services costs, $106,000 a year to be exact. And I think Alan Albus and maybe Carol will be giving us more details on that later in the evening when it actually comes up for total board approval, so I won't spend any more time on that. Secondly, as we discussed, I think at the last meeting in reporting on Operations Committee work, we've been looking at our transportation provider, our school bus transportation provider, and further progress has been made in that arena as well. We're not asking for approval of anything tonight, but I think next meeting probably we will be asking for approval of a new arrangement with Olson that will save us in a range of $30,000 to $50,000 a year. I don't know if you've got any more up-to-date numbers than that, Alan, but that was the number you reported at the committee meeting. Fine. Okay, moving on to the area of alternative revenue streams, I just want to quickly recap, because it lays the groundwork for what we're going to talk about. Quickly recap what's happened in the last year. The Boosters Club helped us with an innovative new approach in a community partnership program, which the board approved on a pilot basis mid last summer, whereby we entered into 3-year arrangements with 3 community partners to provide some advertising primarily at the varsity athletic field and the parking arrangements associated with that for football games. And I think that that was very, very successful and resulted in $50,000 of new income for the school that we could use to offset other sources of income. When we approved the pilot project, the Boosters Club indicated that they thought it was a goal to have a total of 5 sponsors and to have more revenue than that. And I'm pleased to report that they discussed at our Operations Committee meeting great confidence that they could attract 2 more sponsors this summer ahead of football season that would provide an additional $30,000 of annual revenue. This is annual revenue here we're talking about. And in addition to that, they put forth preliminarily a proposal for some banners that would be installed on the back side of the west gymnasium wall that would be visible to the athletic field, the varsity athletic field, that would provide an additional $20,000 or so of annual income. So, I mean, there's $100,000 thanks to the hard work of the Booster Club and the staff. We won't be asking for approval tonight for this banner project, but we will be asking for it probably at the June board meeting once we have a better idea of the details there. And then lastly, we talked about a major new initiative, a bold new initiative that the Booster Club has come up with to raise significant funds to make improvements to the East Campus athletic fields. And I don't want to spend too much time on that because I know that the Booster Club is going to make a presentation tonight. Suffice it to say, there are a lot of details yet to be worked out here, but as a result of the very wet spring that we had, fairly uncomfortable weather, there were lots of cancellations, lots of muddy fields, and the Boosters Club feels that there's an enthusiasm to alleviate that situation and a willingness for the community to donate money to help with that situation. So we're talking about donations here as opposed to partnership or advertising, that sort of thing. And the Boosters Club, again, thinks that there's an opportunity to raise significant money here, talking significant seven-figure money here. And I'll let them provide all the details behind the fundraising and the conceptual plan. And as I say, there's lots of details to be worked out, but we thought as the Operations Committee it was time to present the concept and certainly the fundraising approach to the full board tonight so that they could begin their efforts. And I think that's about it, Todd, unless you have something you'd like to add.
Just really to acknowledge the boosters and on this project. We'll hear about more after these reports are done, I guess. Working with the administration and Tim, they identified a problem that is significant, and rather than coming to these meetings to complain about the inadequacy of the facilities that our students have to endure, they brought to the committee what I thought was a remarkable proposal to raise an incredible amount of money in a very short time and do just an amazing amount of work on the East Campus athletic facilities. And you know, where it would be very easy to just tip our hats and say thank you and let it fly, we do have an obligation to do our own due diligence. Does this meet the strategic needs and the strategic plans of the school? Will it burden, for lack of a better word, the district with an ongoing financial obligation? Is it really something that's necessary? And I think the presentation we're going to see will address those. I hope so anyway, because what this group is doing is bringing forth a solution to a problem that's been identified in a very generous way, and if it can work out, it would be a tremendous improvement to the East Campus athletic facilities.
I'd also like to further mention, in light of that, not only my thanks to the Booster Club for what they have done and what they're offering to do in the future, but also to the extent that this can be used as a template, that this can be used as a springboard for other aspects of the school to also raise money. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the Operations Committee comments, you know, we've accomplished some things in the recent past, and I know Dr. Griffith mentioned, maybe board meeting before last, the new arrangement that we have for a student assistance program coordinator being funded jointly by Northwestern Lake Forest Hospital and the Speak Up Prevention Coalition. Another alternative funding approach where the school is getting the benefit of $30,000 a year of funding that it, you know, historically hasn't looked at, hasn't tried to seed and develop to provide something that we think is critical for our students. So hopefully, again, we can use these kinds of things as springboards for other aspects of the school, academic aspects, the arts, performing arts, theater, music, you name it. And we'll be looking to the other associations in the school community and the community as a whole for ideas in this regard so that we can offset some of the burdens that traditionally have fallen on our taxpayers.
Thank you, Dick. Do you have another meeting scheduled at this time?
Thank you very much. Another thing in my notes that I didn't mention. Yes, our next meeting is June 1st at 8 a.m. at the Wedge Cafe in East Campus.
Thank you, Dick and Todd. Next is our Board Finance Committee. Jim Carey.
The Finance Committee has not met since our last board meeting, but we do have a meeting scheduled for May 24th, 7 a.m. in one of the conference rooms right out here. And it's open to the public.
Thank you, Jim. And as a reminder to other board members, all meetings are also open to other board members if you want to attend another committee meeting and get caught up a bit more. So thank you. Moving on, we have our reports, and this would be our Community Philanthropy Lake Forest High School Booster Club report. Dr. Griffith?
All right. Thank you so much. And much of the introduction was provided by Chairman of our Operations Committee, Dick Block. So, Dick, thank you for that. I just would like to make a few comments also that as we scan the environment across the country, that high schools, as well as other institutions of higher learning, are faced with troubling financial times. And as our organization reacts to that, and as we are in the process of stabilizing our revenue against expenditure streams, one of the elements that is growing across the country is the giving spirit that parents, alumni, community members are reaching out to support their institutions during this time period. So I want to thank the foundation, Lake Forest High School Foundation, because receipts from our parents have grown. Really excellent projects from the foundation are moving into our classrooms, supplementing our budgets, where in the past, historically speaking, Lake Forest High School itself might have done. The foundation really is becoming an important supplement to the overall school improvement activities that are a part of the larger scheme of things at the high school. But not only that, but of course other organizations that are associated with other groups have been very active. We have PALS, we have Applause, we have the Booster Club, each of them supporting other very important activities. So I think the spirit of giving, just the notion of philanthropy, giving to institutions for the benefit of students in our case, is something that I think developing a little mini strategic plan going out into the next several years and perhaps even beyond is something that I think the Operations Committee can be very proud of, assisting the Finance Committee and Education Committee with setting up a framework. So as I'm just complimenting what Chairman Dick Block had to say about that. So having said that, tonight we have a significant proposal that has been brought to us by the Lake Forest High School Booster Club. Lake Forest High School Booster Club is here tonight to talk about trying to address a deficiency facility that is really continuing to deteriorate in our school district. Specifically, I'm talking about the fields to the north and west of the main campus at Lake Forest High School. It's not that these facility areas have gone unrecognized in terms of their need. In fact, in 2005, 2006, the chairman of our Operations Committee, actually Marilyn Harlow, who just left, we undertook a comprehensive study of Lake Forest High School on the heels of the strategic plan that was approved by the community in 2002. There was a long list of needs that were put into addressing the financial, the physical needs of Lake Forest High School. We also conducted a time study, time and space. How could time best be used? What are the optimal instructional conditions? What would education of the future look like? We had many study teams that were organized to support this activity. And of course, as you can imagine, a long, long list of needs came out of the discussions in 2005, 2006. In fact, the list was so long that we would have needed, a $70, $80 million referendum to try to address everything that was a part of Lake Forest High School. It turned out that the committees that we had working, I'm speaking on behalf of quite a few other people, felt that the $54 million referendum number was sort of the magic number for Lake Forest High School. This is the largest referendum in the history of Lake Forest, or Lake Bluff, and passing by the widest margin in a very, very, very successful effort was made. But lots of areas were left behind. Maybe 40% of the facility, it's a general estimate. I could go back to my notes from 5, 6, 7 years ago and perhaps pull that number out, but I think that's a pretty fair guess. The referendum chose to concentrate its activity on East Campus on the academic program. New science labs throughout and facilities for the science department. All of the fine arts programs were addressed. The auditorium had previously, just a few years before, been completely overhauled, but then we were talking about new band, orchestra, choir spaces, brand new library research center for the school, new study centers for students sprinkled throughout the building, a new commons area. It was it just was a fantastic project. Well, on that list that we had in debates in the Operation Committee at that time was the need to address the need for an artificial field at East Campus for particular curricular and extracurricular needs. This would have been an artificial field inside of the track. And the stands, both areas were in bad shape at that time. They were very old. No one actually knew how old they were. One could argue maybe they're original. And I'm talking, this is the 75th anniversary of Lake Forest High School. So, 2006, a comprehensive survey was conducted of Lake Forest High School property by licensed engineer. This has all been filed and duly reported to Lake County and Lake Forest municipal officials. And that included all comprehensive topographies of both campuses, east and west. Of course, we were able to carve out some money set aside for the creation of a new field here at West Campus. But we left other facilities behind. The gymnasium here at West Campus is in not very good condition. And back at West Campus, the major problem was out on the east side fields. I did a little bit of homework by way of introduction to tonight's meeting and discovered, actually no one could remember, so we really had to go back into the archives, and we discovered that the track that we currently have here on campus, East Side campus, was constructed in the summer of 1996, and then it was a repair was made to it in 2004 of about $63,000, and really no money has been spent on that track facility since that time period. And also the stands and all of the other facilities out there also are in a certain condition that we, board members, we'd like to share with you. Our reason for doing this is that we want to show you how the need for this developed, what the conditions are out there right now, and how closely connected our administration at the campus level is in working with our various parent groups. Because our parents who are consumers of our product out there, they're very attuned in if you're a swim parent, you know what's going on in the pool. You know what's going on around the pool. If you're a track parent, you know what that track's about. If you're on the football team, you're a parent on the football, you know what's going on for the football facility. How about basketball, volleyball? So we have very knowledgeable parents who are in a position to interact with our administrators. So I've asked Tim Burkhalter and Carol White, if they would step up, please, to just walk us through, do a tour of East Campus facilities on the outside. This is an outside tour of the grounds out at East Campus. So, having discussed the possibility of an artificial surface back in 2006, I just want to clarify that this was an item that was pushed aside due to budget limitations. And Carol White is going to walk the board through some of the discussions that have been held by the Board Operations Committee over the past year on this topic also. So, Tim is the Director of Athletics for Lake Forest High School, and Carol White is the Shared Service Director of Maintenance Services for both District 67 and 115. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Griffith, and thank you, Board, for allowing us to come this evening and just walk through some of the areas we would identify as needs, and I think this would go in line with some of the studies that were done a few years back to say we have some facilities that still have needs that have not been met. And here I'm going to talk about the athletic side, and I think Carol is going to talk a little bit on the building and ground side. So we're just going to kind of walk through here together. One thing I want the board to recognize is we have many groups that use our facilities. Here we want to talk about daily wellness. The PE wellness curriculum has 7 scout and 7 team classes that use in the fall and spring. The front lawn, I'll call it the backfield, and then the Lindenmeyer field, in addition to the track facility. We try to limit the use on the front lawn as that is used for field hockey and girls lacrosse. Therefore, we move our wellness classes primarily to the grass areas located to the north of the property. We also have 9 sections of strength and conditioning that utilize the track for conditioning and grass for sport-specific conditioning. In addition, we have 2 sections of integrated wellness, which is our class where we have able-bodied students paired with special needs students, and they utilize the track and grass areas for their programming as well. In addition to the curricular uses, we have after-school activities that utilize our East Campus. Girls track, we have 96 participants. Girls field hockey, 55. Girls lacrosse, 68. Girls soccer, 77. Girls softball, 27. Boys soccer, 99. Boys baseball, 69. And boys track, 128. And that's kind of where we have the range of people using the facility. And it does fluctuate depending upon what facilities we're able to utilize here at West Campus. But that number fluctuates anywhere from 525 to 620 students utilizing green spaces, the track at East Campus. I will draw your attention that we have soccer, softball, and baseball kind of italicized and asterisked. Their main facility is over here at West, but we do have a number of times throughout the year where those programs utilize the track and the green spaces at the East Campus. So that gives you an idea of kind of the curricular and extracurricular. In addition, we have a number of rentals that we have on the East Campus property. We have a lot of youth football that we partner with the rec department here in town, as well as St. Mary's youth football program uses those 2 grass fields to the north primarily in the fall. One of the limitations we've seen over 3 of the last 5, and I've got spring and fall identified. You won't see winter here as those are primarily indoors, but we've had a lot of canceled activities. And going back to spring of 2009, we were in excess of 100 practices, games, rentals for high school and community groups that we were not able to utilize. Fall of 2009 was a very wet fall. We were very thankful that we had the turf surface here in order to compete our football contests and our soccer. Many of the schools that didn't have that ended up putting in entire new grass fields at the end of the 2009 fall season. We did catch some nice weather in spring and fall of 2010, and then here we're all very familiar with how wet this particular spring has been and the complications that causes for practices, games, etc. We had lost almost 2.5 weeks straight where we were not able to utilize any green space at the East Campus, where we were canceling, rescheduling, moving, and now the month of May has been very robust in terms of what we're trying to accomplish with our teams as we're getting some nice weather like we had today. So that just gives you an idea of the volume of things that the weather has caused because of the need to use grass. I'm going to turn it over at this point. Carol's going to talk a little bit about the bleachers and some of the other facilities involved. Okay, I'll be her clicker, I guess.
My clicker. Back in July of 2010, a 10-year life safety survey was performed by our district architectural firm, Perkins & Will.
Carol, you're going to have to step a little closer to that microphone.
Okay. It was by our architect firm, Perkins & Will. The grandstands were found to be in violation, both sides, east and west grandstands, were found to be in violation of the life safety code. The violations stated that below the grandstand, storage buildings were constructed and there was stored flammable liquids and gasoline-powered equipment stored under there. They were no longer allowed to be kept under there, and the structures had to be either rebuilt, torn down, or relocate the fuel-powered equipment. We met in November of 2010 with the Operations Committee and took a tour of the bleacher storage facilities to come up with a solution that would fit our budget and our economic times. January of 2011, we again met with the Operations Committee to discuss storage and bleacher use, and it was determined that we needed some more internal discussions with the athletic director, Jay Hoffman, our principal, to find out what would be the best solution. We met March 2011. We then had a bleacher inspection by Paddock Enterprises, a formal qualified bleacher inspector. Their recommendation was to bring both sides of the bleachers, the existing bleachers, up to current code, which is, as you can see, these are where we closed. We then determined that we were going to move all the fuel from the west side bleachers over to the east side bleachers, store it underneath there, and close the east side bleachers for safety and to be within code. We kept the west side bleachers open, and this is just the cover from the life safety survey done in July. I'm sorry. They also found in their inspections that the boards were dilapidated. They are all outside boarding and have to be changed, constantly replaced by my staff. Angle irons were starting to rust. Bolts were starting to come loose. We had to make sure that everything was tightened and secure. The design is out of date and, of course, does not meet any current codes. Thank you. As you can see in the top right hand of the corner of the screen there, you can see the railings that are not in code. Any small child, as you can imagine, could fit through there. You can also see that we've gotten the new boards. The lighter tannish color is the new board replacement that my staff periodically will check and do. You can also see where the step meets to go up to the other step, there's no riser. That is out of code as well. There's a fall hazard there for the small children. The railing for as you can see up in the left-hand side, for the press box is also open and very dangerous. It is the recommendation to bring these up to code. This was the evaluation from Paddock at the same time and what it would cost us to demolish both sides. That was also an option that we had discussed. The total of that was combined was $53,270. This is what the cost would be to bring the bleachers to code. I just did a quick summary of what they want done. There's understructure work that needs to be conducted, concrete work, welding, wire brushing, and painting of all the rust. To re-weld the joint connections is required. Replace all stair seats, foot and riser planks and ramps with an anodized aluminum plank to bring up to code. They would expand some of the walkways to modify them to meet existing code. They're now, I believe, 4 feet wide. Code is 6 feet to also meet ADA. All the guard railings, as I said, were open. They need to be closed off, and chain link fencing all around the front, back ends, and elevated walkways so there's no fall hazard. That cost I just received yesterday. Total budget cost to upgrade both east and west side bleachers, $430,000.
Okay. In addition to the bleachers, we wanted to bring to the board's attention, we've got some other needs there that just haven't been met over the years. Here I've got an image of a very outdated and antiquated sound system. You can see also that, and this is a picture of one, but all the windows in the press box currently have water damage that the only option is to open them, which on inclement weather kind of defeats the purpose. And you can't see out of them to even run a track meet. So our invitational, our scorekeepers were pretty chilly up there because the windows were wide open in order to be able to be functional. In addition, you can just see that we've got outdated lighting, a very rustic press box that just has not been updated over the years, and we wanted to point that out as an additional area of need. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about the track itself. The track originally was built for 6 lanes all the way around. We do have a 7th lane on one side for the 100-yard dash and the hurdles. It does create some limitations as we move into 2010, 2011. We are unable to host the state series competition having a 6-lane track. They will not award Lake Forest High School any kind of regional, sectional, state level competition because we don't have an 8-lane track. In addition, currently under discussion at the North Suburban Conference level is the rotation of the conference tournament, that one of the requirements there is we want to be able to run 8 lanes so we can award 8 finalist medals, and we're going to be unfortunately in a situation where our 6-lane track doesn't allow us to be considered for a conference hosting as well. In addition, there's some simple things that happen with a 6-lane track. Many times with invitationals, we have limitations on participation. We have to limit the number of, in particular in the 100 and 200 yard dashes, the number of heats we can host due to the length of time it takes to run preliminary and finals in those events. So when we invite people to our invitational, even on a Saturday when we've got more time, we've had to limit those entries because of some of the track limitations. And I apologize for the typo here, built in '96, and it is nearing the end of the life cycle. When you talk about the life cycle, and Harry mentioned the repair that was done in 2004, really is a top coating and restriping of your track, as opposed to a refinishing. If you have to refinish your track, I think you start to get into the $300,000 and $400,000 category when you have to take your track down to its original template, and then you actually pour the material, it cures. It's a pretty lengthy process. So I know that we are nearing close. I want to show a couple things just in the last few years. Last year we started to get a number of places where you can see on the left picture we actually had to come in and do temporary repair where the track has bubbled and is starting to have spots like that. The one on the right is an area that's not quite there yet, but in short order will be. And we have those. I didn't take a bunch of pictures, but we have those throughout the track. Dr. Griffith and I and Carol walked yesterday, and there were a number of places where you could clearly see the cracks beginning, and it just is a matter of time before moisture gets under there and it's unusable.
Yeah, I want to say something about that. Board member, I actually have been through 2 track replacements, not here in Lake Forest, but in other communities. If you look at the top of your computer, any of us that have a laptop, the plastic gliding feel that you have with this material is very similar to what that track has become. The track is designed originally to be a spongy, kind of a hard, but still has some sponge feel to it. It's got some grip to it. It's a sophisticated material. What's happened now is that this is metastasized over time. And if you just walk around on the track and get down and kind of rub your hand over the top of the track, it's got a very now plastic feel. It's actually going to become a slippery surface. Plus, if you look at the black, if you can see it's black and blue, mostly blue, those are all cracks. And from my experience in the past, what's going to happen is those cracks are going to start to connect. And then over the next couple of years, that will then, because of water, moisture, that will begin to peel up. And so that's in effect that's the death of a track surface. So we're seeing now the latter stages of the tracks, of the life cycle of the tracks. It's how you can actually see that. So I'd invite anybody to go out and actually walk out on the track, bend down, and just feel the surface. You can feel how different it is today than how it was originally constructed.
Thank you. In addition to the bleachers and the track, we also have a number of areas that I think have been talked about at different stages of the game where storage is inadequate, limited for the wellness department, athletics, maintenance and operation. We do have some images here, and it's hard to see in this picture, an image of the storage underneath the west side stands where currently we store some bicycles for curricular purposes for some of the triathlon program and stuff that's been in there. Takes up a lot of space with that. I have here the other end of that same building we utilize that's a portable scoreboard that we use on the front lawn. We've got our track equipment that we take in and out daily. So it just gets tighter and tighter all the time in there. And then Carol wanted to talk about the maintenance and operation.
Carol, if I could interrupt just for a quick second, for the board members who haven't had the opportunity to view the storage area, how many bicycles do we use in in the curricular activities? Do you know off the top of your head? Because it's a very, very impressive number.
Well, we do have a lot stored in there, and I know that I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
But no, that's okay. I mean, it's easily several hundred bicycles stacked up in there. It just takes up, a lot of room. It's very impressive to look at.
Well, if anybody's familiar with me, I'm always asking for more storage, but in this case, we really, really need it. This is on the left side is the east side storage that houses most of the equipment right now at that picture is out of there. But we have snow blowers, we have tractors, we have lawn equipment, we have aerators, we have, what else do we, tillers, you name it, and it's stored in that little space. And this is the west side that we have started to encroach on Tim and the athletic and wellness department to store some of our overflow equipment. Anything that is fuel related, as I said, has been moved to the east side, and because it's spring now, we can store some outside. But come winter, we're going to have another problem with where to go with it. And certainly we're not going to go into the west campus, west side bleachers anymore. So it's an issue. There's a definite need, a serious need for storage.
So those are just some of the areas we wanted to identify to the board as areas of need that just have not gotten attention over the last few years. And I know that in my discussions with the Booster Club, we have talked at times, how can you mitigate some of these areas when weather becomes a factor and you can't use the grass? And what do we do when we have bleachers that you can't sit on to watch a track meet? What do you do when you have a track that's inadequate to host the right kind of event? And the Booster Club then has listened to those conversations over the years, and I think that they're prepared to present to the board very creative potential solution to some of these issues.
Okay, now for part two, I'd like to introduce Brian Vanderberg and Bill Bund. I don't know if Bill, if you're going to be joining Brian, but Brian is the current president of the Lake Forest Booster Club, and Brian here, board members, is tonight to present a proposal. And so again, thank you, Brian and Bill, both of you, for being here from the Booster Club.
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank the board for having us, and I also want to thank the board for your past support of the various programs that we've introduced, particularly the Community Partnership Program. I think the board showed some great foresight and vision in working with us to introduce new opportunities that we think have proven to be beneficial to our students. Not only the student athletes, but the student population generally. This particular program, you've heard a lot about the needs, and those needs, as Tim has shared, have been expressed in conversations that I've had with Tim over several years in my capacity with the Booster organization. And then separate and apart from those conversations, more conversations than I can probably count with parents and kids who are in sports or in wellness curriculum that are affected by these facilities. In total, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids that are in the sports that are impacted by the conditions of some of these facilities that Tim described. So I think there's a tendency when these issues are first presented to have a knee-jerk reaction and approach them piecemeal. The track is an issue. Well, let's fix the track. Let's repair the track. The front lawn is inadequate for certain women's sports. Let's somehow address that. The bleachers are an issue. Let's address that. And the list goes on and on. So over time, what we've done is, as Tim mentioned, is we've tried to listen. We've also tried to think, what can we do, if anything, to be supportive of the school and our students with respect to activities that garner participation from a large percentage of our kids. So after a lot of thought, and then what I would call maybe the lonely work behind the scenes, talking amongst Booster board members as well as other members in the community that we feel share an interest in trying to propose a solution, is we've attempted to come up with what we think is a comprehensive way to approach not only one problem but a series of problems. And as part of that, what we're proposing to do is initiate a campaign to privately fund the construction of enhancements to the Lindenmeyer field, we'll call it, although there are more fields affected than the single field, and to position and reinvent, if you will, that area as a multi-use, multi-purpose facility that can accommodate not only what's historically been that facility's been used for, but additional use that touches more kids, touches the community, touches those kids that aren't necessarily in athletics. As Tim outlined, the current Lindenmeyer Field facility has outlived its useful purpose, both as a competition field and as a track facility. And piecemeal repairs to those facilities are not cost effective or practical. Similarly, some of the limitations that the front lawn presents as an athletic venue are perhaps self-evident, and it's not realistic or practical to enhance the front lawn of the high school to make it suitable for competitive athletics. And again, the sports that participate in those areas do touch a lot of kids, between the girls' field hockey program, the girls' lacrosse program, all levels, freshman, sophomore, JV, varsity. So the proposal is for the boosters to step in and undertake leadership, not necessarily own the project, but take a leadership role in facilitating a campaign to address the solution. The need has been, I think, highlighted, so I won't belabor that point, but the retrofitting doesn't exist. So the solution that we're proposing is what we're affectionately characterizing as the Lindenmeyer Field. This thing is on a mind of its own here. The Lindenmeyer Field Sports Complex. And the idea would be this would be a facility that would accommodate amenities to address a variety of events. There would be 8 different sports events, teams, programs impacted by this facility. It would include, as proposed, a new state-of-the-art running track and 2 new synthetic turf fields, one in the space of the current Lindenmeyer football field, traditional field, and then one to the west of the former grandstand area. These 2 fields would be marked from a field lining standpoint to accommodate not only football, as Lindenmeyer has historically been used predominantly for, but to accommodate field hockey, football, lacrosse, soccer, and I think I'm missing one. Perhaps not. The field would be at a level where it would be capable of hosting significant competitions in all of these sports, tournaments, invitationals, regionals, sectionals, and in some of the sports, particularly field hockey and girls lacrosse, potentially state-level competitions. All those have potential revenue attached to those, and our vision for this would be to take a long-term, multi-use approach to this facility as opposed to a narrow, piecemeal approach to addressing these deficiencies on a case-by-case basis. The visual here, in terms of just giving you a feel for what we're talking about, is here, and there's a clearer vision I can give you. So this is an aerial mock-up of the proposed facility, and you can see the 2 turf fields with the markings and the new track and field facility. Consistent with Tim's remarks, the new track surface would be an 8-lane complex, which would enable us to address more kids. 8 lanes, you can get more kids, you can be more efficient in the conduct of track and field events. It would include a new grandstand on the east side, which would address some of the bleacher issues that were highlighted in the earlier presentation, also address some of the storage needs in that area. It would be proposed to be a fairly long but not high structure that would have a number of opportunities built in terms of storage and addressing some of those needs as well. The radius, not to get too technical from a facility standpoint, but the radius of the track itself would be a wider radius, which would accommodate a wider field than the current. And the significance of that is that a wider field is necessary in order to accommodate the breadth of sports that we're proposing to house here. The current 6-lane track has fairly tight, narrow turns, which means there's a narrow field in the infield, and just from a standard field size standpoint, that field doesn't accommodate at least half of the sports we're proposed to put here. Now, you could play them, but they wouldn't be in regulation. They wouldn't be regulation size fields. There again, you limit your opportunities to attract competitions, and you certainly limit your opportunities for potential revenue income from, for example, elite soccer clubs and things like that. So this field presents numerous opportunities from participation, increased revenue opportunities for the school district, and not only for Lake Forest High School athletes, but the community as well. The number of hours of programming that a facility like this would accommodate would be a significant increase to the number of hours of participation that the current facilities allow. I mentioned the breadth and the multi-use nature of the facility. Again, this facility would be intended to be the home of quite a number of our teams and sports, but the availability and the significance transcends sports, and as Tim outlined, would be a facility capable of being used by our wellness classes. And there you've got an opportunity, because of the nature of a synthetic turf, to get kids outside more often in open space, participating earlier in the year than currently. Potentially on winter days in December when there's not snow, this is a field that could be used. You could get kids outside on a field participating in wellness curriculum outdoors as opposed to being inside in a field house. So you really have snowfall dependent. You've got year-round ability to have utilization of these fields. A couple other considerations, a few of which I've highlighted already. There are scientific studies, and it's beyond the scope of what I think this meeting is about, that address the patient safety considerations that, or benefits that synthetic turfs like that provide as opposed to the grass surfaces. I talked about the enhanced availability and scheduling opportunities. Again, that's significant, at least a 50% increase in availability. There are financial benefits as well. I spoke a little bit about the revenue opportunities associated with this facility, but also significantly, you virtually eliminate the ongoing annual maintenance costs of grass fields between fertilizing, mowing, striping, all of the manpower associated with that virtually gets eliminated. So there's a built-in savings cost that begins to be inherited immediately with a facility like this. So what we as the booster organization, having listened to the concerns, having talked with a lot of people, are proposing to do is kick off what we're characterizing as the Diamond Anniversary campaign. And we think that that there's a unique momentum that exists in the community, and the timing is uniquely appropriate to kick this off and to make this happen today as opposed to a year or two ago versus 5 years from now. And in the meantime, if we don't proceed and propose this school board and this district will be faced with costs that are going to have to be addressed from safety standpoints, from just normal repairs. And I would argue that to incur additional investment in those facilities in their current state would be not money well spent. I think it would be short-sighted. So we're pleased to stand here today and say that we would like to proceed with this campaign. We'd like to work closely with the school board and the administration and the athletic director to make this happen. And based upon conversations we've had and indications of interest out there, we feel comfortable and confident that this is achievable. The total program as envisioned with this facility is about a $2.5 million project. So that's the scope of the campaign that we're proposing to proceed with. I can answer questions in terms of some of the details of the proposed campaigns, but perhaps it's best that I pause here and address any questions that you might have.
Okay, any questions that come up then, if you want, Brian can answer, or Tim, or Carol, so address your questions accordingly.
Yeah, I think this has gone a long way to answer some of the questions that I had last week, particularly on the need. If I heard correctly, Tim and Carol, you can go up too. We're looking at a potential of, absent this proposal, probably in excess of $1 million of costs coming down the road in a pretty short period of time, to be left with a facility that is a patched version of what we already have, essentially, with some new bleachers and hopefully, Carol, you'll get the storage that you're looking for, right? The $2.5 million, so is there a build-up to that? It's a huge number, and the timing that you project to be able to raise this, and concern that we expressed last week was getting to a number only to find out that it was not quite what we thought we needed.
There is. We've done a pretty significant amount of homework in the background to address the various elements of the proposed facility. I've got a line item budget. Obviously, this hasn't been bid. This is a project that would go out for a formal bid. But I have pretty high degree confidence in some numbers, which I'd be happy to share.
I would just take the opportunity to point out that, we had 2 hours or so to discuss this at our Operations Committee meeting, and this by nature has been a very short presentation. But for the rest of the board, there are many, many details here that have not yet been decided upon, and in fact, Brian and I and Alan and I think Tim are scheduled to meet with our architect, Mark Jolliker, Wednesday afternoon late, to begin that discussion of constraints. Stormwater drainage will be a major issue here as we, put non-porous surface over so much area. Many, many issues. Carol talked about storage issues for a whole assorted group of materials and machines and fuel and things like that. So just many, many things that need to be looked at. But given the data that Tim showed about weather-related problems here recently, and how that cascades down through our organization. As Brian points out, I mean, apparently there is enthusiasm out there. The time is right to strike, at least in the Booster Club's opinion from their preliminary outreach activities. And so the concept, as I understand it, at least, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that we would proceed on the fundraising path while we concurrently try to narrow down the specifics, the scope, and indeed the cost estimate, the final cost estimate of what it is we would be able to accomplish, and that no district funds today would be contributed here, because while we've all heard about the need, given all the other needs we have in this economic environment, it's not. I think it's safe to say it's not real high on the board's priority list of things to be addressed. So.
Right, and we recognize that, and that is one of the reasons that we felt at this time that what I would maybe characterize as a private-public partnership is the way to address this, because we recognize that the district's funds are and should be allocated in areas, and while this is a need, we appreciate that it's not the most pressing need given the overall mission of the board. So it is the proposed plan that we do proceed with the fundraising campaign on a parallel path with some of these other activities, and that is the efficient way to reach the right direction, both in terms of getting ourselves satisfied that the indications of interest and appetite for this are in fact real. We believe they are, and at the same time stress testing the numbers and making sure that we've properly defined the scope of the project from an engineering, architectural standpoint and overall strategic vision standpoint.
You know, towards that end, to stress test the numbers, as you point out, will in fairly short order begin to cost money, and so we'll need some non-district based way to fund those efforts too.
Yeah, understood.
Okay.
I would like to echo one thing that a number of people have said, which is thank you so much for your concern for our students and our community, that you're willing to put your time and efforts into this. I think that that's a wonderful effort on the part of the Booster Club. That said, I have so many questions and so many concerns that it is not worth going into them right now, because the Operations Committee is very well aware of the same issues, and I know you're going to be covering that, and the Booster Club no doubt is aware of many of them too. Some of them have to do with debt, if debt has to be incurred, who actually holds that debt. Part of it is the facilities themselves obviously have to belong to the school district. All the engineering issues, it sounds like Dick was just referring to that there's a lot of study that will have to be done. The preliminary materials that you gave us indicated a very short timeline, which I don't feel is realistic. I'm sure that you were all being hopeful. But simply the groundwork that would have to be done before the board could even really address this, I think make that timeline unrealistic. You also mentioned earlier that you thought that that the timing on this was ideal. In one sense it is. I agree that it's foolish to continue putting money into a facility that truly does need to be replaced. That's just short-sighted. On the other hand, we're in a really difficult economic situation right now. We have had to make academic cuts that are very painful to us. So I really appreciate the comment that you just made, where you said that you realize that this is not a top priority of the district right now. I think that is really important. Another question that I have, that's just sort of a global question that I think we should, on the board anyway, give some thought to, is any fundraising in the community may have an impact on other fundraising in the community. There are a finite number of donation dollars out there, and we don't want to have a negative impact on the foundation or on any of the other fundraising organizations. It sounds like perhaps you are taking that into consideration, and that you're going to be targeting corporate donations and friends and alumni who might have a particular interest in the athletic program.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that when you look at a population, there are individuals and businesses that have passion and unique interests and appetite to support certain causes, whether it's the arts, whether it's athletics, whether it's academics, and that's the case locally, it's the case regionally, and certainly the case nationally and internationally. So sensitive to that fact. This ties a little bit back into the timing from a disruption standpoint. Our feeling is that the most effective way, the most efficient way to proceed is with an impactful, high-energy campaign and program, and move this program along and make it real quickly, so that it doesn't become an elongated campaign, which, to your very point, I think would have a greater impact of interfering over a long period of time with other efforts. I think at the end of the day, and this is a subjective opinion, I don't have research to back it up, but I think what you tend to find in fundraising is the people that have a passion for certain areas of support those. And if they have a giving spirit in more than one area, then I think they tend to give in multiple areas. And if they're uniquely focused on a certain area, that's where it goes. So I don't know that every dollar is necessarily transferable. If it's not committed here, that it would necessarily go to something else that's a priority of all of ours.
I think that's certainly true, although the good thing about the foundation is that it kind of covers the spectrum. They do raise money and make donations to support a wide range of curricular activities at the school. So I'd be concerned that there could be some impact there, but I think you're going in a good direction. I guess I would just like to say this is a really interesting project. You've done a great job of laying the groundwork, and now I think we have a lot of details to learn more about before we can go any further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to elaborate further, Nikki, and to the other board members, everything you expressed was discussed at the meeting, particularly the impact on other fundraising activities at the school. As I said earlier, try to use the sort of the template that the Booster Club has put forth, and Speak Up and Northwestern Lake Forest Hospital have put forth, you know, as a springboard to other fundraising activities in the academic and other areas. We don't want this to interfere with that, and what I got great comfort out of was the time frame that Brian laid out. He's already done a fair amount of legwork, and I think you quoted that you already have preliminary indications of high six-figure level donation capability from that. So, you know, based on that, he doesn't see $2.5 million as unachievable. And, you know, his focus is over the next 3 to 4 months, as opposed to something, you know, that would drag on for a much longer period of time as we tried to gear up these other activities, and there'd be more direct competition. So
that seems very ambitious, but more power to you if you can.
I didn't suggest it was easy.
Could I just ask too, where did the $2.5 million figure come from? Do you have some preliminary estimates of? In front of me, sorry.
That's the build up to it, and that's based upon homework. I've had conversations with other groups that have recently done similar projects of varying degrees. I've met with the Highland Park folks. I've met with folks at Loyola. I've talked to a number of vendors to understand what those are looking like. And some of this information in terms of quotes and bids elsewhere are public information as well. So again, there's been a fair amount of research to back up those numbers, and I'm pretty confident that they're close to spot on.
Are there any other comments or questions from this end of the board table?
We are over here, yeah. I guess one question would be, if you were to undertake such a project, is this something you only would do in the summer so it doesn't disrupt activities during the school year, or how do you phase it or time it?
I think that ideally, yes. I mean, I think that, you know, anytime you are going to, our track program has got about 250 participants in the spring. You have then kind of a window where you would redo a track, barring weather, kind of once the spring concludes. You've got the summer and fall months, then obviously the weather in the winter would preclude anything there. So I would say yes on that front. On the grass fields, we do have fall rentals that we use that for right now. A number of our PE classes would use that in the spring and the fall. So ideally, summer would be the case. Again, the scope of the project and the timing, I think, is a question that's been raised by many. That's one that needs still to be answered.
And this would be a single project, not a multi-year type of approach to it?
That's correct.
And has the Booster Club already talked with somebody to finance this over the life of the period when you're going to be collecting the contributions?
So we're working with a number of groups and exploring what the different alternatives are and the carrying costs associated with that. So have we identified the final answer? No, but we've got some thoughts as to how that might work. One point I do want to comment briefly on the phasing question. One of the reasons that we are proposing to what I'd call the Big Bang approach to it, as opposed to doing this over a series of phases over a series of years, is you start losing a lot of the cost synergies once you separate these and pull them apart, because now you're bringing heavy equipment in, you're moving dirt twice, you're doing all of these things, and you just start having the costs skyrocket on you by handling it that way. So that's our thinking there.
You know, just to piggyback on that a little bit, Alan, talk about the architect of record, our conversations with our school architect, Perkins and Will.
Well, as Mr. Block talked about earlier, we do have a meeting set up with him tomorrow at 5 o'clock. The good thing with Mark is, in addition to doing our West Campus here, he's done 4 or 5 other fields in the western suburbs recently. So he's very familiar with it, very familiar with different soil conditions and the obstacles that have to be addressed. Having done our field out here, he's familiar with Lake County stormwater management. So I think he'll be a really good resource to bring in on this project. And I think he would agree with what Brian just talked about with the synergies of when you go to do it, if you piece it out, the cost escalations involved.
Okay, board members, at this time, I did attend the operations meeting, so I got to hear a lot of this before, and I thought it would be helpful to bring it to the board's attention sooner rather than later. One of the things we're asking for, this is not an action item tonight, but if there is general support from the board members for these people to pursue the evaluations and whatever's next on their list of things to do. But if we could just go down the board table, and are you generally supportive of them pursuing their goal at this time?
Yes, I am.
I am as well.
I am, and Sharon, after we've all had our say, could you tell us basically what the process would be as far as the board is concerned?
I'd need to know a lot more about the financial implications of taking on this kind of debt load in the current environment, given all the other cuts that we're making. So, and I don't want to discourage the activity, because I applaud it. I think it's terrific. But in this environment, we really have to know a lot more about the financial implications and what you're getting in your quiet phase, et cetera, so that we don't end up on the hook for any of it, including the front-end investment. So I think more work to come. Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, I just want to assure you that, you know, that was foremost in the Operations Committee mind as well, that the school not be on the hook for anything here. So.
The question was asked, I think, at the meeting, how much, what percentage of this would we need to have commitment on for you to support this? And my somewhat smart alecky response was 125%.
That would be good. Yes.
And, it's certainly
in cash.
But my understanding is that what we're talking about doing is a number of different things concurrently, where the fundraising can begin while the work to answer the question about the financing, to all of it with the understanding that the school district is not in a position to bear any of this burden. And to the extent that this thing can't fly at all, then it would be a shame, or that it would need to be scaled accordingly once final numbers are actually known, but that we can accomplish a lot concurrently to answer all these questions.
Yeah, and that's exactly the point, and the proposed timing on this concurrent approach is I don't want to stand before you at a future date and propose moving forward in any way with make-believe assumptions relative to what's the appetite out there, what's the nature of the pledges, scope, timing, so forth. So this allows us to actually put the rubber to the road and come back at that future time and say, okay, here's our comfort level, here's where we're at. We have hit 130%, or whatever the number is.
That's even better.
I like to overachieve.
Well, you've got a track record there, because the field lights at West Campus, I believe, did hit about 130%, didn't they? They raised more than we actually needed to spend to put in the lights at Varsity Field. So
all right, we're still
that's the precedent.
That's our
right,
expectation.
Exactly. Yeah, so allowing us to proceed with this step will help us communicate better information to you in the future.
All right, I still have one more board member I'd like to poll. Mr. Edson?
I support taking the next step, subject to all the provisos we laid out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again.
And Nikki, did you have some other questions you wanted answered now, or just
No, I
later?
don't. All I wanted to do was point out that there are a great many questions that we need to have answered before we can take any board action, and so that's why I would like to find out from you what would the process be, what board action would be required, and what kind of time frame would you anticipate?
Let me help. I think it'd be really valuable to get those questions in now or as soon as possible. The Board Operations Committee is meeting on June 1st. The board itself will be reconvening June 10th or 12th. Yeah, the 12th. So board members' questions, Operations Committee's meeting. The Finance Committee is also meeting, so I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for discussion by our respective. In fact, the Education Committee itself will be meeting. So I feel like we can look at the curricular effects in the Education Committee. I think the financial questions, in addition to what operations would produce, you know, you as your committees are really valuable in trying to filter this. And meanwhile, Brian and Bill and any other booster member that's representing the group will be meeting with Alan. Dick is going to be attending our meetings too. So I feel like Dick being a liaison for the board on the overall project would be, of course, it's going to be very, very helpful. So I feel like staff are ready to devote their time. Mark Joliker and his team have committed to jumping into this as quickly as possible and are prepared is to start even tomorrow. So I feel like a lot of questions can be answered. Hopefully we would come to a preliminary stage in the June meeting for a board action to give some kind of go or no-go formal yes or no to move ahead with the project. The financial considerations or concerns need to be addressed between now and that time period. And then this also includes letting of bids. The school district, it is a school district bid that would go out. That's mandatory. Alan will be working with the Booster Club on that, and then any final action of the board would occur when those bids are due back. That's when the commitment occurs. And I don't know exactly when that would be, but I think the teams are going to work as efficiently for a quality project as well as being efficient about it too. So I think we come back in June, we can have a much more detailed and realistic feel for what the kind of timeline this would be also. There's a lot of questions around the timeline itself. So.
At this time, I'd like to thank the Booster Board and for their vision and for their generosity of time and the commitment to our students. And as I said at the meeting, I would like to hold you up as poster boys for some of our other community members whose passion might be the arts or science or math. We have a very talented community here, and our hearts are in the right place. So, you know, maybe the challenge is for others to come forward as well, but I do want to thank you for the work that you've done and what you're planning on doing. Thank you. Do any of the community members have anything they'd like to ask or say at this time? If you do, feel free to come up to the podium. Okay, thank you. And thank you. Moving on, we have our action items. First item tonight is the approval of the Marilyn Harlow Resolution of Distinguished Service. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of approving the Marilyn Harlow Resolution of Distinguished Service, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the action item list is the approval of the custodial contract. Dr. Griffith?
Okay, board members, this was outlined briefly by Chairman Dick Block, but I would turn to Alan Albus for a quick summary.
Before I get into the specifics of the renewal, I'd like to point out that in your packet there's a template for capital and special expense project summary sheet, and this is our first stab at doing such a document, and you're going to see it several times over the next couple of meetings as we try to develop a template that we can provide you succinct and relevant information regarding major contracts and purchases in the district. Moving on to the GCA contract, 2 years ago we bid out our contracted cleaning service and GCA won the bid. They had been the incumbent. We've been very happy with the service that they provide to the district. What we're proposing tonight is the third year of a 5-year contract with GCA. Now, as we look in this economic environment and the things we're faced with, probably a month or 6 weeks ago, we had an internal discussion starting in the business office and buildings and grounds about could we go to a rolling cleaning schedule and clean 80% of the rooms every night. So every classroom would be cleaned 4 out of 5 nights. We discussed that. We brought it to the operations committee and discussed the concept. The operations committee was in favor of pursuing that, and we scheduled a meeting with GCA and talked about that. The expectation would be empty the trash in every room every night, but then each night clean 80% of the classrooms. We had a very good discussion with GCA. There were no obstacles put up, no walls. They went away and came back with a little different proposal. And in the meeting, we had said we are targeting approximately a 15% decrease in our contract. GCA came back and recommended bringing in different and larger equipment and reducing staff so to be able to clean the same area with fewer people, and also reducing the work week slightly for their staff. They suggested, though, that we go to more of a site management model than a set cleaning schedule. So the supervisor on site would make some determinations on a nightly basis or a weekly basis, depending on usage in the building, weather conditions, and what that's doing to the inside the building. Now, because we have a track record with GCA and really a lot of respect for how they do their job, we really think we ought to follow their lead on that, because what they're proposing is not reducing the cleaning schedule in the classrooms, but to look in other areas, for example, like spot buffing in the hallways, high dusting, areas that don't get used quite as often or every day to a full load, and then managing that as we go along. They use us as a strong reference, and so they have a strong desire to keep this to be a flagship account. So what they came back with was what amounts to, and you see in the letter attached, about a 12.5% decrease over our existing contract, which will amount to a savings of $106,288. So we recommend approval of that contract for year 3 with GCA, knowing that we're going to have reduced staff and a slightly different cleaning schedule, but with the expectation that we'll still be very happy with the quality of service.
Board members, is there a motion at this time?
I'll move that the board approve the 2011-2012 GCA custodial contract renewal as just presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Questions or comments from board members at this time?
I have one question. Alan, did you say that we were in the midst of a 5-year contract? So this was a reopening of an existing contract, or?
No, the annual increases have to be negotiated each year.
Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Alan for giving the new special expense template a run here. To the rest of the board, there are a couple of typos that he and I have talked about, so next iteration you'll see it, I think, a little more clearly, but I hope the board finds on an ongoing basis, and the administration, that this is a useful summary tool that can be used to encapsulate a project for decision. So thank you, Alan.
Anything else from board members? Anyone in our audience have any questions? Okay, seeing none, it has been moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Aye.
Mr. Bergner?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Next on the list is the approval of the paper bid. Dr. Griffith?
Okay, board members, this is an annual event for the Board of Education. Alan will give you the results of this year's paper bid.
Lake Forest Schools have been coordinating this bid on behalf of area districts and municipalities for over 30 years. And really, I'd like to give credit to Kathy Hughes, who really takes this project from start to finish every year. As you can see on the summary page, 33,051 cases of paper have been bid, and the low bidder, the cost coming in is $892,261. What I'd like to point out is the next lowest bidder is at $892,788. So there's a spread between those of $527. So it's a tight bid, very tight bid. Our share of that, District 115's share, will amount to $18,427.40. And as it says in the memo, all the participating entities are billed individually on this. But by banding together, we're getting the best price we can on the paper market.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the paper bid?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments, board members? Any questions or comments from an audience member? May I have a roll call?
Mr. Bergner?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Now we have the approval of the Human Resources Report. Dr. Cyrus.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Griffith, thank you. Pretty sedate report for you tonight. I'm proud to say that our full-time hiring is over. We've hired our one and only full-time employee for the year, Derek Blanchard. Really nice young man. I've had the pleasure of working with him. He's a local, grew up locally but went to school out of state, which always presents challenges getting certificates squared away and everything. But I just want to say he's got the right spirit and is unbowed and excited to start joining us in the fall, so I think he'll be a real great addition. On behalf of Jennifer and myself, I'd like to give good news on the progress of the retirement, the voluntary separation program you approved last month. We did reach our minimum number of 6 support staff employees who are excited and have volunteered or applied to take advantage of the program, so it's definitely a go. We're actually at 8. I think Jennifer and I are counting. I'm the pessimist in the counting, but we have 8 for sure. The deadline for the program is actually Friday, the 13th, and but we're expecting a couple more that'll still come in. So, but it's great, and and Jay I think would say this too, that it's really been a nice morale booster for the support staff, and I think they really appreciated this as an important gesture and also honoring their service. We've had a chance to work very closely with each person who's kind of come forward, and there's really a lot of commitment and love for the organization there. So I think that it was a great thing for the board to do for them. Finally, we've been working very closely with the staff, the building level administrators, and here in the district office just to divide up the duties of the Human Resources Office. This is my second to the last report to you all. And by next month, I think we gave you already a preliminary report, but now we'll just sort of work out the bugs of what we looked at about who will be responsible for what and reporting to whom over the next year or so. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, first of all, for Dr. Cyrus? Okay, thank you, Mike. Is there a motion to approve the Human Resources Report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions, discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Bergner?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda, which includes 1, the approval of financial report and schedule of checks written, 2, approval of minutes from a regular meeting April 12th, 2011, and minutes of an executive session April 12th, 2011, minutes of a special meeting April 12th, 2011, and minutes of a special meeting April 25th, 2011. Also, there's the release of executive session minutes November 2010 through April 2011, and last, the destruction of audio recordings July 27th, 2009. Is there any item that a board member would like removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Bergner?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. This past month, we responded to 3 FOIA requests. All 3 came from Nancy Thorner of 331 East Blodgett Avenue in Lake Bluff. Board members, are there any agenda items you'd like to see put on future agendas? All right, with that, I'll move on to announcements. Monday, May 25th is the last day of school for seniors. Wow. Honors Night is at 7 p.m. that evening in the Raymond Moore Auditorium. Saturday, June 4th is the Lake Forest High School graduation at 2:30 p.m. All board members are welcome and encouraged to attend to help pass out diplomas, and we'll be getting information from Ms. Barrett at some point on that. And the sun will be shining that day.
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on. Monday, June 6th is a faculty workday, and the next Board of Education meeting will be at 7 p.m. here in the boardroom on Tuesday, June 14th. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.